We go live talking about all things business, from entrepreneurial activities to systems to marketing to some of the hard stuff and some of the easy stuff when it comes to business. And sometimes we're lucky enough to be joined by special guests, which is what's happening today. Today on the Social Butterfly, I'm joined by Holly Ann. Hi, Holly Ann. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
That's good. I'm going to introduce Holly Ann. She is a member of our The Social Butterfly Facebook group and is doing some amazing things in the world. And I had to get her on and had to get her chatting about them. So Holly Ann is the founder and managing director of a company called Safe for Kids, with over 35 years of experience in teaching child abuse prevention education. Holly Ann has presented her thought-provoking program at over 60 conferences in audiences across the globe, including England, the USA, every state and territory in Australia, Cambodia, Indonesia, Mexico, and Qatar. So there's a few places you've been found at. Holly Ann was inducted into the Western Australian Women's Hall of Fame in 2016 in recognition of her work in education and her passion for child abuse prevention. In 2022, she was awarded an Order of Australia Medal for service to children. So it's unbelievably honourable to have you here today, Holly Ann. How are you doing?
When you read it out, I've gone, that can't be, who are you talking about? That can't be me.
That's what happens when you do the work, right? Isn't it? So thank you for coming on and chatting with me. When I saw what you did, I just thought I needed to start to speak with you and find out a little bit more about the work that you're doing. I've had a look at your website. I've had a look at the beautiful YouTube or the video that you've got explaining what you do, the booklet that you've got, all the books that you have, the 10-week program, just the way that it works so that teachers can get a handle on it. And I've just had a really good look at what you're doing, right? But that's me having a look at it. I would love for you to share a little bit about you and maybe what the company is and how you got started in it, if that would be all right.
Yeah. Well, I started my working as a teacher assistant with children with special needs, and I was in a school where a critical incident had happened, and the principal had everybody trained in protective behaviours back in the late 80s, and so I'd always taught abuse prevention education because teachers go, oh, I can't say those words. Holly, you go and do it. So for 25 years, I had taught it to the children that I was working with. And my last school before I left, I had a very progressive principal. We were a language development centre and we had 3 sites. So she would say, Holly, you're the specialist, go and teach protective behaviours in all 3 sites. And then in 2007, we had some terrible stuff on the front page of our West Australian newspaper about abuse that was happening in some remote Aboriginal communities. And around the same time, I'd shown some of the resources that I'd made to somebody that worked for Child Protection. And she said, Holly, you need to back yourself. These are amazing. You know, this needs to be out there. So I took a $250,000 loan out of my home, quit my job and been doing it full-time since 2007.
Wow.
People say it's a big gamble, but it's not when you believe in something and you know, what is more important than keeping kids safe? So I don't have any children. My husband and I have been together for 10 years, but he didn't have any children. So this is sort of our legacy.
It's the reason I say wow for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's incredible work. But number two, there's something about going all in, isn't there? You know, it changes everything. By the sounds of it, you already had some of the the products or some of the, the assets that you'd already sort of worked with and you were getting great feedback on it. So you could almost say, okay, this is worth doing something like this. Yeah.
It was, 25 years worth of failures, tried and tested. I just needed to produce the stuff. So, I've written 5 children's books, but I actually went to China to try and keep the cost down. We decided we would go to China initially to get the books printed. So I go there to check out the factories because I can't get on a current affair or anything like that. But can you imagine child protection resources made with child labour? I'd be all over the shop about that. Yeah. So, it's like you said, you have to back yourself and when you know that there's nothing else like it out there sort of thing, it's just a no-brainer. And people say it's a big gamble, but it's not a gamble because my biggest problem is trying to get people to know that they need it, sort of thing. When we're so blessed here in Australia. Last April, we had the Australian maltreatment study. Now, for 35 years, I've always said 1/3 of Australia's children will suffer some form of sexual abuse before their 18th birthday. But when we had the maltreatment study, we now know the precise amount, and it's 28.5%, which who's going to quibble over a couple of percent? That's a third, basically. And so, parents say, I'm a good parent, it's never going to happen to my child. Or, I talk a lot about pornography and say to parents, we've got to start from 6 talking about it. And, my child would never look at pornography. It'll find them. They don't need to go looking for it. So, the problem is prevention is not, governments, for instance, are on they're at the ambulance at the bottom throwing money at mental health and all of this. But if we can prevent it before it happens, or if it does happen, give kids tools to be able to tell an adult what happened, or if they see pornography, go and show the adult what they've seen. And that way we can, help children tell us sooner and maybe have less mental health issues and drug and alcohol and people medicating themselves to forget their childhood trauma.
Yeah, this is amazing work. 2 things that strike me here at the moment as you were talking, you were saying that the teachers didn't know how to have these conversations. So they said, you go and do that for us. I didn't even think that they would be uncomfortable. I thought you would be more focused on getting the children able to communicate, and they'd probably be more open to learning how to do something like that than the adults. So tell me about that. Is it in an interesting space to try to talk to the teachers and get the adults used to being open?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If it's 1/3 of children, then we need to remember 1/3 of our teachers may have had some sort of family history around this to begin with. So there's that hurdle. And that's why I started Safe for Kids, to be honest, because I believe there were 3 reasons that stopped teachers teaching this: their own history, resources. So that's why but also teachers go, if I teach this, I'm going to get a disclosure, rather than going, if I teach this early enough, maybe I can prevent some of that stuff. So we have to change their thinking around that. Now, in Australia, most states have, I've stopped calling it protective behaviours, to be honest. I call it protective education, because it encompasses consent and cyber safety and lots of other things. But every state has programs. Some of them are fantastic, and it's mandated in most states that teachers teach this. But some teachers will just teach the bare minimum, the stuff that they're comfortable with. But I say we need to start having the uncomfortable conversations around consent, around pornography. Unfortunately, I've always said about 45% of all child sexual abuse is either children to children or teenagers on children. I read an article just recently that said it could be up to as high as 70% of child sexual abuse. And that, I believe, is on the increase because of kids having seen pornography and acting it out. So, we have to talk about, and I wrote a book, ironically, about children exhibiting harmful sexual behaviour on other children. Cyber safety, grooming, all of these things that we have to, now talk about. And the whole, cyber thing, parents will say, my kids don't go on YouTube. They only go on YouTube for kids, and there's so much horror stuff on YouTube for kids. Or if anybody approached my child playing a game, they would come and tell me, no, they're not, because you're going to take the game off them. So, we've got to educate the whole community around this stuff. And a lot of people don't actually like protective behaviours or protective education, because they say it's putting the onus on children to keep themselves safe. And that's the last thing that I'm trying to do. We can't expect a 5-year-old to keep themselves safe. It is not their job. But they're the last line of defence. If you don't know somebody should be touching your private parts, if you don't know the correct anatomical names for your private parts, you can't tell somebody about it. So this is why it has to be a whole of community approach to abuse prevention education.
It's a big topic, isn't it? It's a big topic. I'm thinking I'm thinking about the resources you've got. It's a 10-week program.
Yes.
that you've got in the folder that I'll show. If you don't mind, I'll share the screen and sort of just show your website in a second. So you've got this 10-week concepts folder that teachers can implement. It's very detailed. It's got all the letters and the newsletters that can go out to the parents. It's got, the aims and objectives of each class. So very much set out like a syllabus, like a classroom, which makes sense so that the teachers can easily follow it. How's it being implemented? Are you getting that into enough schools, and is it easy for the schools to create this and bring it in as part of their curriculum? Are they okay with all of this? Is it fluid, or are they all just another thing to learn or another thing to implement?
They can be. Some schools can be a bit like that, and not something else we have to try and and I get it. I get that they're packed. Schools are packed with curriculum, but my argument to that is, if children don't feel safe, you're trying to build on an unstable foundation. If children have any sort of trauma, you can be the most dynamic teacher in the world, but because of the cortisol racing through their brains, getting them ready to run out of the class because of the trauma, nothing can go in. So when kids feel safe, then we can build. So it needs to be every school's priority, I believe. Now, the curriculum that I wrote initially was for childcare centres, because I believe that we need to start this education from when children are 3 at the latest, and we need to talk about pornography from 6 at the latest. So we started with the early years, and we've got the lesson plans, and every resource comes in that big black box, because a lot of states have their own abuse prevention education, but teachers will be handed a file but no resources, and they don't have time to go off to Dimmicks or somewhere to get the resources. So if you don't have the resources, you can't teach it. So I didn't want to give anybody the excuse not to be able to teach it. So what I'm doing at the moment, however, is because I can't, and sorry, I can't be in every school, and I do a lot of work in remote Aboriginal communities, and it's only because of word of mouth. It's not because this is happening more in those sort of places, but it's just the way that I work. People say, Holly, why does your program work? Stories, songs, and sign language. Hello, 300 years ago, how are we learning? That's just good practice. And so we're actually building some, we already have an online parent course, but we've just filmed, and hopefully it will go up within the next 2 weeks, an educator course, a teacher training, and then I'm building a whole platform where it'll be me on the screen or singing or dancing, and literally teachers will have to plug and play it like play school. So I'll do the lesson, and then there's an activity for from pre-primary to grade 6, and the teachers will work through the activity worksheet with the children and so there's one for every year level, and then it's a no-brainer hopefully for them. Some education departments across the country, it's, teachers look at it, and because there's so much text, they just go, oh, it's all too hard, and it slides, unfortunately. But with me delivering it, it'll just be like follow the bouncing ball. I just need to make it easy for people. That's why I've created the resources, because I create the resources that I need to teach the children in the hope that other people find them useful.
Just looking at some tech here. I'm just trying to find the actual resources. There was a page that you had on your site that had the actual, like, some of the books and everything like that, and it just made it easier to see. I'm sure I share the screen, but we're having tech always sticks, right? It's always fun, the old tech. Must be in the shop. I just found you've got
it will be in the shop,
as you said. Yeah, here we go. So just bouncing around here a little bit. I'm just looking here. It's book bundle, which is super cool.
Yes.
There was, the posters. Yep.
So if you go over to the left-hand side where it's got education programs, and and then if that opens up, then if you scroll down to so click on the black box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe the green
So this
writing
I
near
found
the black box.
Yeah,
And then
that's
if you
okay.
scroll
So it's
down
got
again,
just playing with tech. So this we're doing okay. It's just you've got a lot of frameworks in here, and then you also had them sitting underneath the guidelines of sort of curriculum guidelines, which I just found fascinating for teachers. Let's see where we
yeah.
struggle here.
So we've tried to make it easy. If you just click on the purple writing down the bottom, it'll take you through to the page that you were thinking of. Click here.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
This is super interesting. If anybody, I'm going to put a link to the actual video. This must be the video that I'm looking for. I just found it fascinating. Through everything really well. Yeah. So this, I'll put a link in the bottom of the chat today. It just runs through everything that's included in this program and it explains it really, really well. It just talks about what you've got in there, the 10-week program, the newsletters, the cover letters, the way that you can run your program to have these awkward conversations, which is what I found very well thought out, very well presented, very well made. So you can tell you've gone all in. It's just amazing. So I'm going to put the link to this in our chat here so that people can take a look at that. Talk to me about some of the things you've seen over the years. What I found fascinating is you're saying that teachers are struggling with the conversation. I didn't really see that coming. I don't know if you saw it coming. Obviously, your experience has seen it coming. But how do you go with the kids now? People are worried about, as you've just touched on, putting the ideas in their head, or as you've said, they shouldn't need to look after themselves, right? But as we're finding out, should and shouldn't don't really come into the equation at times. Sometimes life has other ideas. So how are you finding the kids when they know what they're saying and have access to a vocabulary and don't feel weird about anything? Is that working really well, and is it empowering the conversation?
Absolutely. And in fact, when I finish the lesson, I'll be standing in the doorway saying goodbye to the children, and I have children holding back saying, "Miss, I need to talk to you." And I was in one particular school here in Perth, ordinary school. I had 24 7-year-olds. Of the 24 7-year-olds, 8 stayed behind after the lesson. I'm waiting for a cup of tea, but they're going, come on off, you go and play. And they're going, "No, miss, we need to talk to you." They came up one at a time. All 8 had seen pornography on YouTube. Not one child had told a parent for fear of getting into trouble or not being allowed to go on YouTube. But here for the first time was this lady talking so openly, and I don't call it pornography with children in primary school. I need to be clear about that. We call them private pictures and private movies. And it's done as part of the public and private lesson where we talk about rooms and clothing and body functions and, it's a whole concept. But it's the best time for me to talk to them about private pictures and private movies in context. And, even very young children are coming across it. Research says the average age of kids knowingly going to look for it is 11.
Yeah, right.
In my experience, it's 9 knowingly going to look for it. But that's not to say our 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds aren't coming across it accidentally, or older siblings may leave something open. They hear things out in the playground. And so, we have to give them the tools to be able to go and, I used to say, go and tell an adult, until I actually had a situation where I'll never forget it. It was, we'd just gone into lockdown here in Perth for COVID, and somebody had come across child exploitation material on Instagram. And so they tag at Safe for Kids, at FBI, at Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, which is eventually where it will go to, in NetMec in the US. So I get messages all the time. So I open up this random message, could not believe what I was seeing. Somebody had come across this really terrible video, and so I just burst into tears, and because I know what to do, I took a screenshot of the guy's face but not what he was doing, a screenshot of his page. I go back out to take a screenshot of who had sent it to me, and then it had disappeared, unfortunately. So then I knew to go on to report it to the ACCCE, the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation. I go on. I could have reported it to the E-Safety Commission, but that it'll go to the police anyway. So I just went straight there. I type up the report. I'm crying my eyes out. This is 5:00 in the afternoon. I then go up into the house because my office is in the bottom of our garden and tell my husband what I saw. And I'm crying and I'm explaining it. When I'd finished explaining it, my husband's gone, "Oh, yeah? What do you mean, oh, yeah?"
That's right. Yeah.
I'm a basket case and all you're giving me is, "Oh, yeah." And so I see it as a gift now, as horrible as it is. And I still have flashbacks. About every 2 months, I'll burst into tears about what I saw. And I saw one image. So these amazing police officers that they have to trawl through this stuff day after day, I just wouldn't want to live in their heads, because I still, it still plays on my mind. But it made me, because I used to say, go and tell an adult. And if I couldn't explain it to my husband, how is a 5-year-old supposed to explain to a parent what they've seen? And when we consider that, 85% of pornography is violence against women, and there's all of these things that you need a lot of consent around, and it's just not in kids' worlds what they're seeing. They just don't understand it. And kids are having flashbacks and nightmares with what they see, and they're thinking that dad's doing that to mum. And when I work with 14-year-old young men in high school, who are one of my favorite groups to work with, ironically, because they don't have a filter, boys just want to ask you stuff, they tell me they're watching 2 hours a week of pornography.
Wow.
And when I say, fellas, why would you look at that? Oh, to learn technique, miss, to learn style. Back the truck up. That's not the right technique, and there's no style. But there's no kissing, there's no foreplay, there's no pleasure for women. 88% of the pornography is violence against women. There's no consent, and that's what our teens think is normal. And there's a certain sex act that you need a lot of consent around, that they think everybody wants that. So, amazing people in our country, we're all working together to try and get age verification. The E-Safety Commissioner and Collective Shout and people like that are trying to force the government to get age verification, because we're not going to stop our 14-year-olds getting it, but it's the young children that, if I'm brainstorming with 5-year-olds, where might you see pictures or movies, people no clothes on? Keep in mind, this is 5-year-olds. A little girl put up a hand and said, Snapchat. Sweetie, you're 5. How do you know about Snapchat? Oh, my 14-year-old sister's using it? Possibly for sending nudes, because how did a 5-year-old know?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I was in a remote Aboriginal community, and a dear little 5-year-old little boy put up his hand and said, easy, Holly, you just type in XXX.
You're right.
You're right, bub, but you're 5. And then I was in a very affluent area, and a very well-spoken little girl put up her hand and said, it's easy, miss, you just ask Siri. Don't ask Siri anything.
Siri and Alexa, they'll know.
Find me some naked pictures.
That's actually, that would be correct. Because they're taught to ask Alexa about dinosaurs and whatever else, but why wouldn't they?
Exactly. So I say to parents, please, you be your child's Google. Never, ever say go and Google it, because the second they hear something on the telly or how often, I don't know in other states, but here in West Australia, quite often at 8:30 in the morning, a parent will be driving their child to school, and over the radio comes, do you suffer from erectile dysfunction? Imagine what they'll see if they ask Siri, what's erectile dysfunction, Siri?
So that's the old school coming to the new school, isn't it? Radio and tech smashing into each other.
Yeah.
In a young person's mind, a young person's world. Wow. I didn't even think of that.
And so this is why I'm really passionate. I hate TikTok.
Yeah. But anything goes on there, right?
For 5 years, even when it was Musical.ly, I bagged it. And then I had 3 police officers in 3 different states say, Holly, get over yourself. Your message is so important. You have to go on there and, try and combat all of this stuff that other kids are seeing and things like that, because they said, that's where the people are. So you need to be there, because, I put a lot of stuff out on Instagram and Facebook and all these social medias. And when I post really insightful stuff, crickets. My husband and I do rock and roll dancing. If I post about that, 5,000 likes.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that. There's so much to say. I'm tripping over it. So much to say. You've got platforms that have agendas. So they're going to let certain messages through. So it's a matter of circumnavigating some of that. My brain is straight away gone to, I'm just thinking about your 14-year-old boys who think that that's the norm and they're on there looking for techniques, right? I have a few people in my world that are actually working with young men and men in general, teaching them about what it is to be a man again in the sense of manhood, right? Like getting back in contact with that. And there's initiations even in some of the work they're doing. I wonder whether that's a conversation for you to connect with these people that are not even, it's not even, you can't so much do it on social media. It's at a root level. And I wonder whether, I've just got someone in mind that I wouldn't mind you talking to who's working with men predominantly and bringing back men's, for want of a better word, circles. It's not even woo. It's more, let's just get back to being men, because men have been so obliterated over the years,
Yes.
right? And emancipated and have had all that taken from them, and women's lib, women's power, and everything's lopsided. It's all starting to come back down again. And there's all this conversation around men being men. And I find that incredibly interesting that a 14-year-old thinks that pornography is where you get the tips. I did not even think that that is how they're thinking.
Yeah.
That's a very important conversation.
You've got people like Andrew Tate trying to indoctrinate them on TikTok and on these, social media. And, I really feel for our young people because they've got so many bad things coming at them. And now with artificial intelligence on top of all of that, I've already been in schools where 14-year-old girls are making child exploitation because they've had a fight with another girl, and they're using that to make child exploitation material. And it's we've got to do better for our young people.
I wonder how we can't bring that conversation out a little bit more online. There has to be a way around that. That's scary. Yeah.
Well, this will make you laugh. I got banned on TikTok from going live because I was telling a story to a survivor of child sexual abuse. We're quite close, and he invited me on to have a chat to his people, and I was telling a story, and I said the word penis. I got banned instantly.
Yeah.
I've heard people say the C word all the time on lives, but I got banned for saying the correct anatomical name. That blows my mind.
Oh, yeah. I can help you navigate the world of socials in relation to that, right? It's amazing, the new language that's evolving, right? What you do and you don't say for algorithms, and that's just algorithm side. So yeah, I'd be interested in chatting you a little bit more about getting your message out, because I think it's too important. Which leads me to some of the goals of the company, or for kids over the next 12 months, and also some of the roadblocks. So I'd love to know, first off, what's your goal for the next 12 months? So where is the business in the sense of being in schools, the message being out, people knowing about it? Because I think do you speak to parents a great deal, or is it more okay, so you've got three audiences: the teachers, the kids, the parents.
That's
right?
Yep.
So is the message getting out to all of these people? Is that what your goal is for this year, and what are the roadblocks?
Well, I believe that we've got to start it early. So my goal for this year is to get all three of our parent, which we already have, but our educator and teacher training up, and get these online lesson plans written. But marketing wise, I need to get the kit that you showed into childcare centres, because we've got to start by 3 at the latest. And so I'm planning on doing so I'm based in Western Australia, but I'm just planning on doing a couple of road trips, one to Canberra, because some friends of mine used to teach protected behaviours in Canberra. They've actually retired, and from what I can understand, very little is happening in Canberra around this area. So I'm planning on hopefully going and doing some daycare stuff there, and then doing a bit of a trip through Victoria, starting in Bendigo. I've been approached by a special school in Bendigo, but if I'm coming to Victoria, then I'll probably try and go to Mildura and Ballarat as well, just to try and, I am only one person, which is why we're doing the online stuff. Face to face is the best.
Mm.
But if I can't be in every school, to have this training that can be up. But also, if there's a critical incident in the world, I can get on, my camera and do a lesson for the schools. So for instance, when there was the tsunami, I was up in a school up on the coast, up near Geraldton, and a parent was saying the first thing her 5-year-old did every morning was got up and ripped back the curtain because they lived right on the beach, and she was worried that the tsunami was coming for her, sort of thing. And adults just don't know how to talk about this sort of stuff. So this is what I'm trying to be able to do, is because I am only one person, and I'm quite a shy person unless I'm talking about my subject. So my mantra is, my message is bigger than me. And so to try and get more media and stuff like that, even though it's out of my comfort zone, but even that's quite difficult because they want to drive their messages. We had a child abduction here before Christmas, and one of the TV stations, I won't say who they were, sent a reporter out to interview me, and I gave them so much. They were here for an hour and a half. I gave them so much good information, but the 20 seconds that hit the news for me was bleh.
Yeah.
And they kept saying, but Holly, can we say kids shouldn't walk to school? No, you can't. They kept wanting to talk about stranger danger.
Okay.
No, you can't. We talk about tricky people. We don't talk about stranger danger.
Yeah.
Because, only 10% of child sexual abuse is by a stranger. 90% is by somebody that's known and possibly loved by the child. So, mainstream media want to drive their narrative, but it's not what my narrative is.
No, which is why I think there's going to be a lot more of this, like the podcasts and the smaller people, if you like, and not the mainstream stuff, because it's pretty important. And I think, they can easily get sort of attached to a bigger message rather than what's really down here, the grassroots. So your goal then is to access more schools. Yep, particularly Canberra and say the regional Melbourne is sort of, but obviously, so if anybody's from those areas and wants to reach out to Holly-Ann, please do so. If you know of anybody in the schools, that'd be great. If you come over to Melbourne, I'll get you up to Sydney side. So you'll have to come up that way because you're all the way over here now, right? And would there be anything around, just before I finish off, actually, can you just go through briefly, just tell me what the 10 core modules are in that book? What are the 10 core topics that you look at?
Yeah, so it's based on 2 themes. We all have the right to feel safe all of the time, and we can talk to someone about anything. So in the first lesson, we talk about, what is a right. With older kids, we would look at the UN rights of the child and go through all of that. And we talk about safe and unsafe situations, but also safe and unsafe touches. So consent's built into that. Then we teach safety on a continuum. So we've got safe, fun to feel scared, risking on purpose, and unsafe. The third one is early warning signs. So we talk about the body signals that you get when you feel unsafe. So the butterflies in the tummy, your heart racing, your legs feel like jelly. As part of that lesson, I talk about the difference between telling and dobbing, because we tell kids don't dob all the time, but we've never linked it to anything. By linking it to these body signals, it's very clear. And I say to kids, if you feel unsafe, you need to go and tell an adult. But if you're just trying to get that kid into trouble, don't do that, because that makes that other child feel unsafe.
Yeah, okay.
Then we talk about the second theme. So we can talk to someone about anything. And as part of that, we help them set up a safety team of adults they can talk to. So how I do it is, on the thumb would be anybody from the child's home, and then 2 people from school, and then 2 people from the community. Here we also talk about, whenever I'm with a class, we ring the kids helpline, because most people have heard of the kids helpline, but they don't know the true value of the kids helpline, that it's 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. But if I'm a child and my mum and dad are fighting, and I ring you at the kids helpline, now that I know you, I can keep asking for you. I don't have to keep telling my story to every man and his dog.
You're right.
And there's lots of other things that I go into about in the kids helpline. During this lesson with older kids, I also do some cyber safety stuff, and we talk about who's playing Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, and it probably wouldn't surprise you, but so many kids are now playing Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and things like that. And I heard this, I did a duet on TikTok just recently. A friend of mine from the UK who's a cyber trauma expert. There's now a game that kids are playing called Poor World. No, Pal World. And there's a lot of sexual innuendo, and it's toxic. So if your kids want that, Pal World, don't let them on it. But we do a lot of stuff around the grooming and things like that. Then we do public and private, and go through public and private rooms and places and body functions and behaviours and pictures and clothing. And then we get onto the body parts, and kids need to know the anatomical name for their private parts. Then I do, I've designed, I call them the 4 safety questions, and kids need to ask themselves these 4 questions before they go off and do anything. Do I get a safe or an unsafe feeling? Does an adult I live with know where I am? Can I get help if I need it? And would an adult I live with get a safe or unsafe feeling? And so if kids go on a play date or, and so the neighbour says, hey, we're going down the pool for a swim, I've got to stop and ask the 4 safety questions. Or if I'm online, do I know where to report if people start, swearing and stuff in these games, or start friending me up? Because with grooming, I don't actually call it grooming with children, because, I call it friending them up, and they pick up that pretty quickly. Then we talk about saying no, that you can say no to anyone, but only if you feel unsafe. And we teach that there are 5 no's. And then the last one is on secrets. And we talk about safe and unsafe secrets. And a safe secret is kept for a short time. But if somebody wants you to keep an unsafe secret, they want you to keep it forever and ever. Some programs say that all secrets are bad and we only have surprises. I choose not to teach that, because I've taught, for 10 weeks, we've been talking about safe and unsafe. I find kids really do understand it. And I think there are some safe secrets, like having a secret family code and, where you hide the key so that people don't break in your house. That's a secret.
And where you hid the Mars bar from your brother, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's what the program looks at. And it sounds very simplistic when we talk about it like that.
Not at all.
But there are so many nuances as you're going through, just to make sure that it's really clear. And it's ironic, when I do a parent workshop, parents go, oh, what about this? And what about this? And going, yeah, but you've had your 30, 40, 50 years of experience. 6-year-olds don't think like that. And I've been fortunate to have worked with, children from 2 to 17. And I don't say I get it right every time. I've worked with, a lot in remote communities. And so this is just, my failures basically. And kids will say something and I go, oh gosh, I need to write a song about that. I don't know if you saw the 11 songs that I've written with the Aboriginal kids from remote communities.
Yes. I didn't say that.
They're wonderful. We've got one about consent, grooming. I even wrote a song about sextortion.
Yeah, right.
Who in their right mind, apart from me and maybe Tim Minchin, would write a song about sextortion? But it's amazing. And it says if you make a mistake, it's not too late. And we put up who you should report it to and stuff in the film clip. It's absolutely outstanding. So yeah, we've written 11.
Are those songs on your website or on your socials, or on both?
So they're on my YouTube channel, but because kids loved it so much, I had to make up a separate channel to put just the 11 songs on. Kids were writing down the URLs and sharing it with their friends. But the next video was me talking about pornography, and I've gone, oh my gosh.
So the 11 songs have got their own YouTube channel. All right. So I'll pop the link to that down in below as well, team. So I will share your website, which has got these amazing programs that people can find out about, your YouTube channel, so the kids can check out the songs, and so the big kids can check out the songs, which is awesome. You are looking to go to Melbourne and Canberra, but obviously I'm sure if people were from somewhere else, you'd entertain a conversation.
Oh, later in the year, I'm actually in Queensland, and I did have somebody asking me to go to Wollongong. So if I do get to New South Wales, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you're just down the road then. And a couple of things. What could people do what can adults do, so teachers or kids, if they suspect, teachers or parents, if they're suspecting anything, what should they do?
So on my website, I've actually got a free poster with what to do if a child does disclose. It's so important. So when I'm doing a teacher training or a parent workshop, I say, especially to the parent, I usually pick a dad and I go up and I say to the dad, I get his consent first, and I say, I'm going to pretend to be your 9-year-old daughter. And say, okay, yeah, no worries. And I go, the boy next door touched my vulva. And normally dads would go, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to get my gun. But you have to stay calm. So when has telling someone to stay calm ever worked?
Yes,
so
right.
What I say is, you need to say these 4 sentences. Holly, I'm glad you told me. I believe you. It's not your fault. And I'm going to do something about it.
Wow.
Just having those 4 sentences. If I'm a child and I've suffered sexual abuse and I tell you, that's my job done. It's now your problem. So we need to, and one of the things that I've got in my lesson plans actually is I've written an invitation that the kids hand to people on their safety team saying, congratulations, I've picked you on my safety team and I expect you to listen to me, believe me, be available. And if I tell you something bad, I need you to say these things back to me. And it's as if the kids have written it and handed it to the person on their safety team. But on the poster, it's got all this, and then you have to contact authorities. You mustn't ask any leading questions. If you ask who, what, when, where, you'll taint you'll damage the investigation for the police. Now, kids don't always just come out and say what's happened. They might simply say, oh, I don't want to go to that person's house. And the parent says, come on, get in the car, running late. Go back and say, why didn't you want to go to that person's house? Kids try and disclose. And this was made really clear. I have a podcast too, and I interviewed an amazing young woman who her story's quite unique. She's 23 now, but before under 10, she was abused by a woman, which her family knew something had happened, but she kept saying, was it him? Was it him? Was it him? Was it him? She said to her family, and I've got consent to tell this story, that woman is weird. Thinking, why didn't my parents stop sending me there? I told them what was happening.
Yeah, true.
Because we haven't taught kids how to do it. And so I actually do give kids, when we're doing the public and private lesson, I show them what to do if they've got an unsafe secret. And, you tell someone, and if they don't listen, you have to keep telling until you feel safe again.
This is a massive education piece that needs to roll out. Like, it's just a matter of retraining the way we speak and hear.
Yes. Yeah.
It's huge. That's a big job you've got. Well, I'm so pleased that, possibly we could share some of this message with some of our crew. If anybody wants to learn any more from Holly Ann, please just click the links, go to her website. I'll also pop your podcast link out there, Holly Ann, so that people can tune into any of that. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions around this whatsoever, please just drop them in the conversation. If you want to keep it private, just click the links to contact Holly Ann. Or if you want to speak to me and I can pass it on, there's absolutely no problem with that. But thank you so much for the work you're doing, for coming on today and sharing what you're up to. It's incredible. If we can be of help in any way, let us know. If there's anything we can do in the coming months, just let us know. And we might get you back on again in a couple of months just to see if there's anything going on that we can help with. So thank you.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you so much for the work you're doing. It's just a change in conversation, and I think the way you're bringing it to people, they can hold it, and then they can move from there, because we don't know, we just don't know how to deal with it. And I thought it would, honestly, I thought it'd be more than a third. It feels like a lot of people. There's a lot. So let's sort it out. Thank you so much for coming on today, and thanks everybody. If anyone's got any comments, by all means drop it in the chat, but I'll see you soon. Thanks, Holly Ann. Thank you so much.